Good evening, viewers. We are grateful to God for granting us this day. 18th April is a very significant day in the calendar of the Catholic Church. We are gathered here this evening to have a discussion on that and other issues regarding the Catholic Church in Ghana. I'm happy to have in our midst
Charles Gabriel Palmer Buckle, Metropolitan Archbishop of Cape Coast.
Anthony Ananpra, a papal knight of St. Gregory the Great.
Thank you and welcome once again if you just joined us. Can you give us the significance of 18th April in the calendar of the Catholic Church?
Let's begin immediately by saying that this coming 18th April is Good Friday. And Good Friday is a solemnity when the church celebrates the passion of our Lord Jesus Christ. But what is interesting is that 18th April 1950, Pope Pius XII elevated Cape Coast to become a metropolitan archdiocese, and at the same time elevated 4 other apostolic vicariates to become dioceses, namely suffragan dioceses of Cape Coast Archdiocese. And they were Accra, Keta, Kumasi, and Tamale. And if you look at things, all the other churches in Ghana actually came from these 4 suffragan dioceses under the Metropolitan Archdiocese of Cape Coast. So, we are going to celebrate 75 years as a metropolitan see. Ghana is going to celebrate 75 years as a Catholic hierarchy. Good Friday is not the best day for a celebration of that nature. So in our archdiocese, we will use the opportunity to, in addition to the Passion of our Lord Jesus Christ, say one Our Father, one Hail Mary, one Glory be to the Father for that day. But the celebration itself of our Diamond Jubilee will be on Easter Sunday.
Wow. Thank you, His Grace, for this introduction. Prof, would you want to add a bit to what the Archbishop has said?
Normally, when the Archbishop speaks, what is expected is done. What I would like to add, that as we thank God and congratulate ourselves for that, the road to this hasn't been easy. The road has demanded the attention of 60 popes from 1415 to date. And the road has started when we had been entrusted to the Order of the Knights of Christ in Portugal. Then we became part of a diocese called the Diocese of Funchal, a very vast territory which comprised East Africa, West Africa, China, India, and Brazil. And we were all one diocese. Before we became the Diocese of Sao Tome, then we became also then the Diocese of the Two Guineas, before we became a prefecture in 1879, and we had been there, became a vicariate, then the Metropolitan See, as the Archbishop has said, it has not been an easy route. It has been a long journey, and we thank God for that. Let me add that for the meantime.
Thank you very much, Prof. The professor has given us a historical background of the reason why we are here this evening. Your Grace, can you kindly give us a general overview of the Jubilee year and what goes into Jubilee year as it is indicated in Leviticus?
What is interesting is that every 25 years in the Catholic Church, since 1470, if I'm not mistaken, from Pope Boniface VIII, has become a Jubilee year in reference to Leviticus chapter 25, verses 8 onwards. Why Leviticus chapter 25, is because that was where the Lord God, talking to Moses, said, every 50th year you shall make it a Jubilee year. And he gave what should be done. Liberation of slaves. People were to go back to their own homes. They were to go back to their lands and the rest. It was a period of restitution, revival, forgiveness, reconciliation, and. Now, Pope Boniface made it into once every 25 years. And therefore, 2025 is a Jubilee year. And Pope Benedict, as well as now Pope Francis, they even had what we called extraordinary Jubilee. A Pope is allowed to declare a Jubilee, extraordinary Jubilee, because there is some reason he wants us actually to celebrate. Pope Francis declared, I think, 2016, what he called the Extraordinary Jubilee of Mercy. But this is an ordinary Jubilee, and he calls it the Jubilee of Hope. It starts from the 24th of December 2024 and will end 6th of January 2026. That is the Jubilee year, the Jubilee of Hope.
Okay. So why is it a Jubilee of Hope for the Universal Church?
Well, the Pope can declare what should be the theme. And he declared as a theme, we are to be pilgrims of hope. What Pope Francis has been pushing always is to let us know that we should not defeat the purpose for which we are Christians. In fact, he chose a biblical passage that is Romans chapter 5, verse 5, where it says, hope does not disappoint. So in spite of all the challenges that the world is going through, migrants, refugees, displaced persons, conflicts, sicknesses, COVID, name it and the rest, we should be pilgrims of hope, knowing fully well that our hope in the Lord will not disappoint us. So that is the Jubilee Year of Hope, 2025. And the theme is Pilgrims of Hope.
Okay. Prof, what is the rationale for the Jubilee Year?
Well, the rationale for the Jubilee Year is what has been said by my Archbishop. And I cannot say something different. But then I will add to what the Bishop has already said, that the Pope can declare a Jubilee Year because of circumstances. In fact, there have been, before that, what the Archbishop said, 2 extraordinary Jubilee years. The first extraordinary Jubilee year was done in 1933, when the church celebrated 1,900 years. And the second was by Pope John Paul II, when the church attained 1,950 years. But as he said, a pope can look at the circumstances and declare a Jubilee year. In fact, we have once had a Jubilee year when it was not 50 years, but 33 years. And that was Pope Urban VI, because he said that Jesus spent 33 years and so declared an extraordinary Jubilee year to add to what my Archbishop has said. But in addition, he has said that it is a time for restoration, a time that slaves have to be liberated, a time that land has to be returned to their owners. But now, in addition to what is coming now, I think as a layman that the Pope is also calling upon us to be not only pilgrims of hope, but it is a time also to adore the sacrament, hope, have justice, commitment to serve God, synodality, etc. As it comes to me, perhaps the Archbishop may also tell us why I think that I am being called upon as a pilgrim of hope, also in the context of synodality, because he can educate me more.
Actually, I would have to be honest, there are so many things happening that it's getting quite difficult to keep on track. It's true that 3 years ago, Pope Francis called for a synod on synodality. And the idea is that he said, in the church, everybody who has been baptized, you matter. You have a role to play, and you should be held to play it, so that the church should move from being very clerical, only the priests, only the bishops, only the leadership, to becoming a community of believers. And that is what synodality actually means. Everybody who has been baptized and who has been confirmed matters. Now, we've celebrated already 2 synods of synodality. That is 2023 and 2024 October. And then 2025 being a 25th anniversary of as a year has also come, this Jubilee of Hope. So to be honest with you, there is so much that can be put together. But I would say, yes, everybody in the church matters. Everybody who has been baptized matters. And everybody should know that we are in a Jubilee year, a Jubilee of hope, and become men and women of hope, pilgrims of hope, walking together, going together. This is just in all simplicity.
Your Grace, we are grateful for this highlight that you've added to our discussion. We want to look at the hierarchy of the church, that is the double Jubilee celebration in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast.
Once you say the hierarchy of the church, historically, and I think Prof will be able to also testify to it. In 1950, it's not only Ghana, at that time Gold Coast, that became a Catholic hierarchy. Am I right?
No.
That other hierarchies were created on the West African coast. And with the elevation of Cape Coast becoming a metropolitan see, with 4 suffragan dioceses, as I have mentioned, Accra, Keta, Kumasi, and Tamale. I think others were created in Nigeria and the rest of it. And so it's a Diamond Jubilee of a celebration, in addition to the Jubilee, of hope. I'll just say that's what I'm looking at.
Okay. Prof.
Yes, I will add that at that time, the Metropolitan Archbishop was Archbishop Thomas William Porter. And for the Diocese of Accra as a suffragan was Bishop Adolf Nusser. For Kita, I think it was Bishop Herman. Then for Kumasi, I think it was Bishop Paulison. And for Tamale, which I started with Oscar Morin, I think that one was Holland at that time. I'm not too sure of Tamale. Okay. But for these three, these were the bishops. And William Porter was the metropolitan of these suffragans.
Permit me to immediately add the fact that Paulison was Kumasi.
Yes.
Gerald Holland was rather Keta.
Keta, yeah.
And Bertrand, Joseph Bertrand, was Bishop of Tamale.
Exactly.
So, Oscar Morin, as you said, was actually initially in Navrongo, and then we know. Yeah. So this is just historical, precision more or less.
Thank you for the correction.
Well, if you just joined us, we are having a discussion on the significance of the 18th April 1950 regarding the Catholic Church in Ghana. May I go back to His Grace to give us what will go into the Diamond Jubilee within the Cape Coast Metropolitan Archdiocese?
I will immediately say that the Archdiocese of Cape Coast is celebrating its Diamond Jubilee. But it is almost coterminous, or rather should also involve the celebration of Accra as a diocese, a Diamond Jubilee. Keta, which has now become Keta, Akachi, Ho, and Jasikan, also as a diocese. Then Kumasi as a diocese, and if I may say that Kumasi has given birth to Obuase, Konongo Mampong, Goso, Sunyani, Techiman dioceses, so they would also have to celebrate. Then if I talk about Tamale, which began initially in Navrongo, 1905, and got down finally to Tamale, Tamale as Metropolitan See will have to be celebrating also 75 as a diocese, because it's made up of Tamale itself, Wa, Yendi, Damongo, and Navrongo Bolgatanga. So it's going to be a celebration, and it is a celebration not only for Cape Coast as Metropolitan Archdiocese, but for all the other dioceses. Their mothers became dioceses, we may say. They are our grandchildren from the Archdiocese of Cape Coast, we can say.
I thought we were going to ask something about Sekendi, Takoradi, and Yosu.
Oh no, I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. Because definitely the Cape Coast province is made up also of Sekendi, Takoradi as a diocese, and we also diocese. Thank you for the reminder.
Prof, is there anything else you want to add to the Diamond Jubilee?
To the Diamond Jubilee. The word diamond connotes an element which is precious, very hard, unflinching, and looking forward, that it increases its value. So when we are being told that we have a Diamond Jubilee, then my expectation as a layman is that we have been hardened to become so precious that we should look forward for the years to come, what we can do to consolidate our gains. Let me say that for the meantime.
Prof, is there any role that lay people in the church are expected to play in relation to the Diamond Jubilee celebration?
The role of the lay has been very, very, very important since the inception of the church, because the lay are to be evangelizers. And so you see that we have recently had a very popular theme, baptized and sent, let your light shine. And so the Metropolitan Archbishop had just said that the synodality conference, Synod of Synodality, is advocating that every baptized person has got a role to play in the church. There have been encyclicals by previous Pope Paul, Pope John Paul, etc., about, I think it's Nuntiane Evangelii and all that, how the lay are to participate in the advancement of the church Christologically. And so it is out of the lay the priests are anointed. And so we have a role that when people are chosen by God for them, from us, we pray for them and work with them to succeed in their work in the Lord's vineyard. Mm-hmm. And so that is my small view as a layperson.
Let me, Prof, add immediately. We ourselves in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast, we had a second synod. That is in 2021. And in fact, we should have come out with the acts of the synod. But just when we finished the synod, July ending, and we went talking about it in August and September, then Pope Francis called for the synod on synodality. So we couldn't actually start the implementation of ours, but to wait and get on board with the entire universal church. So you said something that is beautiful. We numao na wasumao. That was where we came up with that slogan. We numao na wasumao. Once you've been baptized, you have been sent. And in fact, we took this from the Pope himself. The Pope had given a document in October 2019 in which he was emphasizing the fact that anybody who had been baptized has a mission. It's a mission. So that's how we came up with Wenumo Nawashumo. And then we ourselves added also the response. Let your light shine. We took it from Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Let your light shine, that seeing your good works, wherever you are, they may give glory to your Father in heaven. So you see, a lay person has a role to play as a father of a family or as a mother of a family, as a teacher, as a civil servant, as a public servant, as a politician, as name it, a traditional leader. That is where you should let your light shine as a baptized Catholic. So I just thought I would add that to it, that we have a lot of work to do with and for our lay people.
May I add that at the end of every Mass, those of us who had the privilege of attending Mass before pre-Vatican II, at the end of the Mass was ite missa est, go, you are sent. And so the role of the lay has been always a charge at the end of the Mass that we are sent to go and proclaim what we have lived in the Mass and come back probably the following Sunday.
Interesting. We are all sent and we are expected to play our roles as Catholics. Well, I know the next 5 years, which is 2030, the Catholic Church in Ghana will celebrate 150 years of sustained mission and evangelization. Your Grace, would you be kind enough to give us the significance and some planning that had gone on regarding this special celebration?
Jacinta, you'll be surprised to let me say that. Let Prof give a little bit of the history behind this. We are going to be 150 years as a Catholic mission, which means it takes into consideration when the two missionaries arrived in 1880, am I right? Yes. On the 18th of May. The SMA were invited to this place. Prof, I've heard you talk about it a few times, and I think you can give us the historical, how did it happen? Why did they come? And the rest, just for us to know. And it shows also how the lay people were really instrumental in getting the Catholic mission to come back.
Your Grace, I have already said that this road has engaged the attention of 60 bishops. You have been under many orders, Order of Christ. You have been under the Dominican order before. We have been under the Augustinian fathers before. But then, you see, well, the Portuguese celebrated the first Mass in Elmina on the 20th of January, 1482. That was on the feast of Saint Sebastian and Fabian. Catholicism was introduced into Ghana. However, the Dutch defeated the Portuguese in 1637, and the Dutch were not Catholics. They were of the Dutch Reformed Church or Calvinists. And so Catholicism went into dormancy until two gentlemen became interested and drew the attention that Gold Coast needed evangelization. Those were Pierre Bonnard. Pierre Bonnard had been an Ashanti captive during the Peki War. And having left Kumasi, he went to Sierra Leone, where there were the Holy Ghost fathers. You know, Ghana, Gambia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone, we were one country. And so we were under the jurisdiction of the Holy Ghost fathers. And they had their headquarters in Sierra Leone. So he went to tell them that actually Gold Coast hasn't got any Catholics, no lay, no priests. And so there's the need for that. And even proposed that evangelization started from Salaga or Kumasi, where he was as a captive. Then Sir James Marshall had written to England in a newspaper called The Tablet about the same issue. And so this will catch the attention of Per Planck, who was then the head of the Society of African Missions. The founder was Briselac, Meshua Briselac. He had died in Sierra Leone. And so Per Planck had asked the Propaganda Fide for the evangelization of people to erect Gold Coast as a prefecture under the auspices of the Society of African Missions. And so this plea was given attention in 1879 when the Pope made this place a prefecture. And so Per Planck had to send missionaries. At that time, he had sent missionaries to St. Helena in South Africa, but the missionaries were not allowed to operate with the people, but became chaplains to garrisons. So he will actually let Moreau and Murat, Eugene Moreau, Auguste Moreau and Eugene Murat come to Ghana, then Gold Coast, on the 18th of May, 1880. In actual fact, they should have been preceded by Ange Gaudiol, because Ange Gaudiol was the head of mission in St. Helena, but he was made to stay to close down that mission as they arrived. So there starts the mission, substantive mission activity in then Gold Coast, which will transform into a vicariate, from a prefecture into a vicariate, then to a diocese with Marcelin Albert as the first bishop, before we became a metropolitan see in 1950, 18th April, under Archbishop Thomas William Porter.
Let me add a name you have not mentioned. They landed in Elmina.
Yes, they landed in Elmina
on the 18th of May. So that that's why Cape Coast actually became what it became, because the mission started in Elmina, and I think from 1882 it was moved or gradually it grew into Cape Coast and then gradually started
No,
growing?
actually,
Yeah.
the seat of the bishop had to be coterminous with the capital of the province.
The region
And
of
so
autonomy.
it was Bishop Maximilian Albert who moved it, is it in 1879? No.
1887.
1887 to Cape Coast. And that displeased Armenians a lot, and they seized his cathedral. But then it was, canon.
It's part of history.
Yeah,
yes.
canon, and so it was brought to Cape Coast, 1897.
So having said that, now let's look at a very interesting point that in 2030, the Catholic mission in Ghana will be 150 years old. So we have 5 years. Now, I would say this as a Metropolitan Archbishop of Cape Coast, let us celebrate the Diamond Jubilee. And a celebration means looking to the past, how God has been good to us so far. The missionaries who came, what they did, the evangelization mission, as we have been told, was more or less three-pronged. We always do that. One, we call proclamation of the Word of God. Two, we talk about catechesis or formation in faith. And three, we talk about diaconia, or what you may call service in witness of our faith. So that's how it began, the three things that began. And we are now grateful to God for how many churches have grown out of that mission. We cannot count them. But at least in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast, we can say that we have as many as 72 parishes and rectories where priests are resident, and we have over 500 outstations where we have little churches, we have various communities of groups and everything. And that is already a mission for which we have to be grateful. The second one is about what we call formation or catechesis. You have formation of the faith, teaching catechism and the rest, and formation of, call it capacity building, encouraging people by building schools. Education has been one of their very important focuses. Already in 1882, 1884, 1886, I think the SMAs began educating the boys, and then they called, am I right, the women counterpart, Our Lady of Apostle Group,
1883.
1883,
26th
to
December,
come
yeah.
and help in the formation of women, girls, and the rest of it. So that is how we got into education, and we got into faith formation. Then the third one, as to the fact of what we may call diaconia, namely service in witness. If Jesus was healing, we started thinking about healing of the sick people and the rest of it. If Jesus was involved in education, we started forming people in their minds. If Jesus was involved in liberation of prisoners, liberation of people from the devil and the rest of it, we started getting ourselves involved in all these things. So I would say these are the three things that our lay people have had a big role to play and have played up to date. So while we celebrate, we can look at how many hospitals, for instance, we are in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast alone. Not to talk about Ghana. At least we have 6 such health facilities, 5 main hospitals, and then 1 clinic. All of them growing from the mission in those days, of course, not too far gone. Then we also have a lot of social services that I can talk of. One which I don't want to forget is Padre Pio Rehabilitation Center at Ahutokrom, where we take care of lepers, cured lepers, we take care of prisoners, we take care of people with contagious diseases in prisons, we take care of, many other facilities. But just one would say, as Metropolitan Archbishop, I want us to celebrate this and to prepare for the future, the next 5 years, what do we want to do? We want to thank God for our heritage, what we have received. I cannot enumerate them all here. And we want to equip people, give them capacity building for them to continue what is there for the next 5 years. This is more or less the idea of a metropolitan archbishop, together with my priest, my religious, and the lay leadership of the Archdiocese of Cape Coast.
Prof, I think Archbishop has spoken much about education, maybe more of health rather, if you want to look at education and some developmental projects that had gone on.
Well, Catholic education started in Elmina, and the idea was that the people or pupils must be trained holistically, not only in books, but as part of it, a formation. And so it was started by Father Moreau with 5 pupils in Louis' house in Elmina. Then it grew to about 100 people and left it under the care of Father Henneberry when he went to Lagos. Although when he came back, some pupils had left. But then girl-child education was also very paramount. So on the 26th of December, he invited the Ola sisters, Sister Ignace Howard and Putamien Moose, who started the girl-child education. There was the formal and informal in the classrooms. But then there were other elderly people who were going into marriage. And so they were giving informal education about how to marry, how to do food, culinary arts, how to dress, how to keep the home in order. And even it extended to the education of liberated girl slaves in Elmina. So the education will move from just elementary school to vocational school. So St. Mary's will be started in Cape Coast, and that one will result in Archbishop Porter Girls Polytechnic. The education also look forward to producing personnel who have multiplier effects, and so teachers of teachers. So Ola, or Our Lady of Apostles Training College, will come in. In 1935, Bishop Haugier had started Emisano. No, he started earlier, but it was rather Archbishop Porter who will then split Emisano, which had a secondary school, a seminary, and a teacher training college. And so the teacher training college and the secondary school will be brought by Archbishop Porter to start St. Augustine's. And then St. Augustine's will be split. And I think that the training college went to Bogoso as St. Joseph. And so you see that priestly formation also started. And Haugier had also started formation of catechists. But that didn't work much. But he started a brotherhood. Brothers of St. Joseph. The Ola sisters also started that, they started with the formation of Sister Benigna Consolata, Agnes Archer, and the daughter of Athanasius Odogli. In fact, Athanasius Odogli was the first priest, but he was quite elderly before, yes, and he had a daughter before he entered into the priesthood, and Helena Archer. So they started also forming. Archbishop Eminsa will start with the congregation of
Infant Jesus, Society of Infant
please,
Jesus.
help me.
Society of Infant Jesus. Yes, you are right.
Yeah, continue for me.
It's interesting to see how, in order to provide personnel for some of the evangelization mission, as you are saying, it's not only education, it's not only catechesis or catechist, it's also seminary training, it's also teacher, and it also gave brothers for religious life and sisters also for religious life. So you are definitely right that with time, we looked at the challenges and we tried to create the needed personnel, with missionary zeal to be able to fulfill that.
Your Grace, I thought that you will also hit on the socioeconomic things that you do. You provide wells, potable waters, distance education like Cafdil, etc. now. These complement, when you make boreholes, etc., they complement our health aspects. And I thought that the first Catholic Bishop Conference had only 3 bishops: Bishop Porter, Bishop Paulison, and Bishop Herman. I think so. The third one had Oscar Morin. And I think that the Catholic Bishop Conference become observers to what is happening in the country and suggest how we can all contribute to building our nation.
Permit me to add immediately, going back to the fact that the evangelization was, Jesus himself said it, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. And we are sent out, baptized and sent to become salt and light. And therefore, as you are saying, salt, to be effective, must be inside the food. So you see, a lot of our people who are trained to be teachers, who are trained to be, as you say, married people, how they, to be catechists, how to, be, nurses and the rest. They were to effect evangelization by living it in society. So we have always been very conscious of the fact that the church must evangelize the society it is in as salt, and must give taste over there, must give energy over there, must also stop things from going rotten over there. But the church does that surreptitiously, it's not noticed. When you talk about light of the world, just take a candle. A candle gives light, puts to flight darkness. A candle also gives warmth, love. But a candle burns itself, sacrifice. So I'd like to come back and say that, yes, the Catholic Bishops' Conference have always played a very important role by being truly salt, unobtrusively participating in the socio, economic, and political development of the country.
Give us some background information regarding the role of the Catholic Church in nation building.
Let me begin immediately by saying that I can most probably talk about the 3-pronged, call it missionary work we started with. Evangelization involves proclamation, and therefore building churches, proclaiming the word of God around the place, trying to form consciences. That's a very important component of Christianizing or making people become Christians. Number 2, I talked about formation or catechesis, forming people in the faith so that they may grow more matured in the faith. And then also I veered into education, building, and that we have schools and so on and so forth, And then I talked about service, in witness of our faith in Christ Jesus, that we are brothers and sisters and we should be one another's keeper and so on and so forth. So let me look at education. And let me go back immediately to the Catholic Archdiocese of Cape Coast. As I sit here now, I am aware that only in the Catholic Archdiocese of Cape Coast, we can boast of about 500 first cycle institutions, from creche, kindergartens, primary schools to JHS. Then if we talk about second cycle institutions, namely secondary schools, you have St. Augustine's, you have Holy Child, then you have private ones like Brother Andre, like Holy Cross, one I think being run by the Sisters of the Infant Jesus, in Nyanyano and others, This is just to give an idea of it. Then we have vocational institutions. And then we have also a tertiary institution like Ola College of Education, apart from the seminaries of Pedu, and the minor seminary of Emisano. Now, if you leave the Pedu and the Emisano, take for instance Ola College of Education. Bluntly put, only about 15 to 20% of the population is Catholic. 80% is non-Catholic. That is a very interesting, what we call output for nation building. Take St. Augustine's College, a very popular college. It has about 2,300 students, of whom only about 10% to 15% are Catholic. The rest are non-Catholic, and yet they are receiving education in a Catholic missionary institution. Let's talk about Holy Child, which has a similar, proportion, where about 20-25% are Catholic and the rest are non-Catholic. But they are all receiving education, they're receiving formation, they are receiving education in conscience building and the rest of it. So all I want to say is that when you look at education, we are serving the country and providing manpower building for the country. If you look at health, as I said, we have 5 hospitals, very big hospitals. Let me name them immediately. St. Luke's, Apam. St. Francis Xavier, Asinfosu. Our Lady of Grace, Breman Esikuma. St. Gregory in Buduburam. And then we have the Mercy Women's Hospital in Mankasim. If you go and you look at their statistics, outpatients department, you look at inpatient department and the rest of it, 75, 80, 90% of the people they are serving are non-Catholic. Not only that, the manpower working there in terms of doctors, in terms of nurses, in terms of paramedics and the rest, quite a number are not Catholic, but they find jobs there in order to take care of their families and everything. I can say the same thing about education, the teachers and the rest. And so when we sit quietly, for us, mission has meant a holistic work, helping the country to get the necessary manpower. I don't know what, Prof, you can say to that, We're dealing with the laity, for instance. Yep.
The output of the Catholic education system has permeated in all levels of nation building. And so, in the army, in the police, migration, all these services, there are Catholics there, and for which we provide chaplains. So it is not just keeping the faith to themselves, but they live as witness for others who are non-Catholics to copy in many ways when we go there. So the manpower, even in the parliament, we have caucus of Catholic parliamentarians who meet for masses. For health, it is the same. And so the proposition that has been made that we actively and for others non-actively participate in nation building is there. Only we don't brag about it. And the manpower also permeates into having an interreligious dialogue, but I will leave that again to the Archbishop, because the Catholic Church manpower in making interreligious dialogue is active, both from the church, the clergy angle, and also from the lay angle.
Let me immediately say that since Vatican II, which was celebrated 1962 to 65, what they call aggiornamento, namely modernization of the church, updating our missionary zeal and effort, we became conscious of the fact that we cannot just be in our little corner, think about the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church alone. We have been sent to be salt, to be light where we go, to be yeast in the flour. And because of that, the church has been working very strong and very hand in hand with other Christian denominations in what we call ecumenism. We have a lot of ecumenical dialogue with the Christian Council, with the Ghana Pentecostal Council. We have it with the what we call independent churches and the rest of it. We have dialogue, yearly dialogue with them. We also have interreligious dimension, particularly with Islam. And in fact, we have now every year a meeting between the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference and the Muslim, Council. So it just tells you how we are not only doing it on the grassroots level, we are also doing it at institutional level, and that has led not only with interreligious dialogue, not only with ecumenism, it has led to the National Peace Council, for instance, which has contributed a lot to peace in this country before, during, and after elections. When there have been troubles and the rest, we've come together to meet as, the Ghana Bishops' Conference, the Christian Council, the Muslim, Council, to try to do what? To quench tensions and the rest of it.
Your Grace, on a lighter note, can you throw a bit of light on the role of the Catholic Bishops' Conference and also your relationship with the Chief Imam?
The role of the Catholic Bishops' Conference is that there are 20 jurisdictions. You may call them 20 dioceses. Actually, 4 metropolitan dioceses, that is Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, and Cape Coast. And then we have 15 other dioceses, and then we have 1 apostolic vicariate. The bishops, who are 20 in all, plus even our emeriti bishops, those who are in retirement, we meet at least 3 times a year amongst ourselves, just to deliberate about our missionary work and how we are being effective, what are the challenges, social, political, economic, and what to do, and which angles we should concentrate on. And from there, very often, we come up with a communique. Once in a while, we come up with a pastoral letter. And when we think it is necessary to involve, for instance, the Christian Council, with whom we meet at least once every year, we come up with a joint pastoral letter or a joint communique with the Christian Council. And now, as I said, with the Muslim Council, we have been meeting already. We've had 4 meetings. We have a 5th one that is going to come up once a year. And so these things really help. We have an interface with each other. I'd like to look at Cape Coast Archdiocese in particular. There are so many of our Cape Coast Catholic families in whose extended families we have Muslims. We have non-Catholics, we have Protestants, we have Pentecostals. And therefore, on the capillary level, we've got to train people to know how to respect other people's religious feelings. We know how to train people to relate with them, because we end up with intermarriages, inter-Christian denomination marriages, even interfaith marriages, Muslims marrying Christians, Christians marrying Muslims, Catholics, and the rest of it. So we have a lot of work to do, and we believe that having a very interpersonal relationship goes a long way. And that brings me to the National Chief Imam, whom I call my father. Because when I became Archbishop of Accra, I would have to admit that the old man had a very special spot for me. He still has. I can take my telephone and call him, and we will meet and have a chat and everything. And whenever there was the need for us to talk about peace, not me as Charles Famabako, but as a bishops' conference, together with the Muslim Council, he was always ready to facilitate it. And so these are some of the things that we have to thank God for, that thanks to Vatican II, there has been a rapprochement with our brothers who are non-Catholic, who are Christians, or who are non-Christians, who are Muslims, and even traditional religion. We also have quite a lot of relationship with them. Many people forget that, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in 1987-88, Pope John Paul II had a prayer meeting in Assisi, and there was a fetish priest, in inverted commas, a traditional priest who was invited from the Archdiocese of Cape Coast to be part of the delegation for such a meeting. So I would say these are some of the things we should be doing.
Yeah, the submission on nation building, the angle you have taken is about intergroup relationship, which bring harmony.
Institutional,
Yes. But I also like to add that although priests call themselves father, many of them are experts in specialized fields. Some of them are scientists. They don't call themselves father doctor or all these things. They are scientists. They do research in various science fields, social fields, etc. And this help in nation building.
Some are lawyers.
Some are lawyers.
Some are policemen.
Yes.
Some are soldiers. Priests who are.
Yes.
And they are there.
And they are there.
With them.
Yes. And so that is part. Then you see that the Pope's first encyclical about the environment.
Laudato Si.
Laudato Si. And you see the church is in our Greek. Yes, so it's part of nation building. And we protect the environment, and there was tree planting and the rest. Perhaps I must...
Permit me to say that we had Arbor Day already in the 60s. Arbor Day. That means tree planting, seed forestation, and the rest of it. Even before government took up, this thing and the rest of it. And I would like to say we have to emphasize it, thanks to the Pope's Laudato Si, where he makes it clear that we belong to the earth as a gift that God has given to us, but it is not ours to destroy it. We should take good care of it.
So I will add also this, the ambassadorial role of the church.
Diplomacy.
Diplomacy, you may not, the priests don't talk about it, but I have had the opportunity to be in Rome elsewhere. You will see what ambassadorial role that Cardinal Turkson plays. As we talked about where we have come so far, we have not mentioned that we have had a cardinal.
Very significant.
Very significant. And Cardinal Turkson does a lot for Ghana very quietly. And I think Archbishop...
not only for Ghana, for Africa and for the entire church.
Yes.
He's held so far 3 very important positions. Initially, he began with the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. Then he was moved into the Integral Human Development. And then he has been moved into the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. And all these things play a universal role. So Cape Coast, we've got to be proud of the fact that we have our man there who is really helping with the universal framework of peace, universal empowerment of humanity and, working for peace and the rest of it. We've got to thank God for it.
Yes, and probably also thank God for you, because you went to Rome and talked about the Ubuntu philosophy when you were talking about synodality. And it caught the attention. And you see, it means for us an international respect and a listening ear. So that is diplomacy for us. And it has started very long ago. In the museum that we have in Elmina, we have letters written by Bishop Porter to Kwame Nkrumah every year, sending him Christmas card, sending Nkrumah a Bible, all diplomacy that the church-state relationship goes. And you see, this Diamond Jubilee starts on the 18th April 1950. You know, 1948, there was the Christian book shooting. And that was the beginning of our struggle for independence. Perhaps Archbishop is older than me. Maybe he may continue from there, the church's role. Because after that, Archbishop Emisa was given to Ghana. What will we say?
Definitely, as you say, 1950, the hierarchy was created. 1951, we must not overlook that Kwame Nkrumah was made the leader of government business. Let me put it straight. Kwame Nkrumah was a product of the Catholic Church. He went to a Catholic school. He even taught in Emisano. Kwame Nkrumah was a Catholic until he went to America.
He wanted to be a Jesuit.
And then he suffered, unfortunately, the discrimination over there. That made him begin to look more attentively at socialism, at communism, and the rest of it. But Kwame Nkrumah, remained always a Catholic, quite a lot of Catholic relationship, and the rest of it. Now, as we were saying it, he, with his men, Kojo Botio, Kofi Bakon, and the rest, they were all Catholics, and these are some of the leadership of our country and the rest of it. So we have to be proud of that. When we look at the Catholics, sometimes we cannot hide away from the fact that Jerry John Rawlings was a Catholic. He remained a Catholic until he died. I remember he said it once a Catholic, always a Catholic. And I've always had a very good relationship with Jerry John Rawlings as a Catholic. And when he died, well, some of you are privy to the fact that I preached at his burial. And then, Bishop Kumoji was the one who buried him and the rest of it. Then we have to admit, Kufuor is a Catholic. So the Catholic Church has produced also manpower. Not only for international, universal leadership, but also for our country's leadership. These are issues we have to admit and take them. And I would have to say immediately that because of that, they've always kept an open door to the bishops. We see the presidents anytime we want to. Catholic and non-Catholic presidents, we have always had an open ear with them anytime we want to. And it's not everything you go and talk behind closed doors that you flip and flap in the public domain. No.
Perhaps we add that as part of our participation in development efforts, now we are in Cafdil. This is electronic type of communication. But way back 100 years ago, we had started the Catholic Voice and the Standard here in Cape Coast. And so it was a means of letting people know about our church and also talking about national issues and directing them to think about national issues and how they can participate as Catholics.
Well, listeners, I think if we want to talk about the role of the Catholic Church, we wouldn't finish today. We have enjoyed the discussion. Prof, is it possible we look back the present and then also see how best we can bring in innovation in the Catholic Church regarding the double jubilee and the way forward?
Let us look at the present first. The present is that we are living in a milieu of other people of different religious persuasions. We are living with Protestants, Wesleyans, Anglicans, Presbyterian, etc. And we are living with our brothers Muslims, etc. And so this is the milieu in which we are. Different churches have different methods of winning people to join their folk. The Catholic Church uses meditation, etc. It is not a wealth-seeking church, but a link to God. So you will see that a lot of the youth now like churches where music is loud, where there's no contemplation, etc. And unfortunately, things like football, etc., by the youth take place on Sunday mornings, keep fit, etc. So it takes people's attention from coming to church. There are programs on television and radio, religious programs. So we are living in a milieu that the Catholic Church has to fashion how to live peacefully and in coexistence, and at the same time advancing the values of the Catholic Church. And this is where the future lies for us. When money does not come into people's hands, they often try to sweep under the carpet what the Catholic Church does. We have mentioned our inputs in education, inputs in health, socioeconomic development, etc. This does not put money directly in people's hands. So sometimes they don't see the value. But then it is our contribution to bring them up. And so we have a challenge. The challenge is let the youth who will follow us know that we don't worship God because we are looking for a material gift from God. God will give it. He knows what we do. But we should concentrate on praising Him and letting Him do His will in our lives. So people are going to places where immediately you go there, they give you a scholarship, they give you money, they make you an elder, etc. And you can train for 6 months, then you are a pastor of. We are priests. We have priests. We don't have the 6-month thing. So it's a challenge for us. The economic situation is not only the attrition due to these other churches, but the economic situation lets people try to work even at times that they should worship God. And for those who want to worship God, they worship God in the morning on Monday, in the morning on Tuesday, etc., etc., etc. So you ask them, where is their productivity for their self-development? So we are living in a certain milieu for which we have to plan to retain our people. But that notwithstanding, the Catholic Church has existed for 2025 years. It has dicasteries, or we would say ministries, for everything in the world, for every religion in the world, for Muslims, for Buddhists, for everything. For science, he just said Cardinal Texan is for arts and science. We have priests who are trained for every discipline in the world. And so this will lead us to strategize our evangelization efforts. And in the strategy, that means our priests will have to probably have a revised curriculum which meet the challenges of the moment. We may have more priests, but then we may also have more people leaving the church for various reasons, not because we don't have good priests, but the distractions are there. But I think that these things are being thought of so that there's no attrition that much. We retain people, and then we groom their spirituality in the circumstances that we find ourselves. The future is not stuck because of this. The Catholic Church will always stand strong. We will find ways of retaining our membership and even increasing them.
Your Grace, same issue. How do we celebrate our past, the present, and then we look at the future with a renewed mind to meet the needs of the current situation?
I would have to say that when you talk about celebration, it's good to look at the heritage, and we have looked at our heritage. And we must maintain the heritage. We must diversify the heritage. Our health facilities must become some of the best. And in fact, as I talk now, some of our hospitals are among the best in the central region. Our educational facilities must become some of the best, some of the most modern, and the rest of it. And we are doing whatever we can. Our services and the rest of it, we are using them. And in this day and age of, the digital world, whether we like it or not, we are really involved. So looking at our heritage now in our celebration, we can say, yes, let us now maximize our output. Let us optimize what we can do by even getting into the scientific digital world and the rest of it. We are already there. In communications, we are there. You have Cafdil, we have Meriba TV, we have many other TV stations and the rest of it. We have online TV and everything, where Catholic faith is also being, call it this way, discussed, propagated, and the rest of it. Yes. As Prof said, we live in the world. We cannot live outside the world. In fact, a good friend of mine says, if you live by the seaside, you cannot build a wall around the sea. Teach your children how to swim. If you live by the seaside, don't build a wall around the sea. It would be a waste of time. Teach your children how to swim. And so I like to believe that as part of our evangelization, as part of our holistic formation of our youth, we must also teach them to be in the world, but not of the world. And that is what I think Prof was saying. We are doing that. We do have, in fact, it's now becoming a very long journey to become a priest. Some time ago, post-secondary school, in 5-6 years, you were ordained a priest because you did 2 years philosophy, 3 years theology, 1 year pastoral work, and then you were, boom, ordained a priest. That is what I went through. Today, when you finish senior high school, you have to do 1 year what we call propedeuticum, where you come and learn Latin, you learn liturgy, you learn local language, you better your maths, you better your English, and you also learn Latin. I think I've mentioned it. For 1 year. Then you go into Sutuum, St. Paul's, philosophy seminary, where you do 3 years of philosophy plus 1 year spirituality. So that's 4 years. Then when you finish, after you have acquired a BA in, spirituality, a BA in religious, social and religious studies. You go into Sotuom, where you do, Pedu, where you do 4 years theology, in order to get another degree in theology, and then 1 more year of pastoral work. So by the time you finish, you are fit for 2 doctorate degrees. Let's be honest about it. But it is all because we want our priests to be really on top of the job for today. But as you say, the challenges are good, and they are many, and we are never adequately prepared for everything. So we come back to how to give to the lay people what they can do, and they can do better. And that is where synodality comes in, and namely appreciating the capacity of the lay people and building them up for them to be able to run the business. For instance, into accounting, professionalism, into psychology, into as you said, medicine, into security services and the rest of it. We have lay people who are competent, and we should be able to equip them and use them. If you look, our Pope is gradually, in inverted commas, I won't say diluting, but he is declericalizing a lot in the Vatican by inviting non-priests, non-religious into the leadership of the church. That is what synodality is about. And that is where the lay people must be made to know you have a competence that God has given you, and he calls you to use your competence in his service. And therefore, sometimes as a bishop, you don't even know how to help the lay people know how much they are needed in the church, especially as you say, because sometimes we can't pay the money they need or they want, So they may have to do a little bit of sacrifice and the rest. But I think if we walk together, if we work together, if we appreciate one another, if we listen to one another, they help us be in the world, but not of the world. We help them be in the world, but not of the world. And together, I think we are carrying on the mission of our Lord Jesus Christ as good as can be done.
Your Grace, there's the Pope has drawn our attention about abuse of artificial intelligence. We are talking about
The digital world.
the digital world and the abuse or misuse of artificial intelligence. This coupled with also unemployment of the youth. The church will have to be probably thinking about the church's curriculum in empowering the upcoming youth to live in these circumstances. If our education system has been grammar-based, maybe now the church may think of vocational-based with entrepreneurial skills to meet the challenges of the coming world, where there is AI and also robotization. There will be more unemployment, and people are rationalizing sin, rationalizing sin and the rest. I wouldn't say it is easy for the church, but we live in the church, and for the future, I think our priests, the church has trained people enough to do their best to meet the challenges which are coming.
Yes, permit
please.
me to add, that is where Cardinal Turkson is in the Universal Church's office, the Pontifical Academy of Arts and Sciences. And I would say, as you are saying, he has talked about that. One, helping us as church to know that these are instruments that God has given to the church, to man, for man to use to better his or her existence, his or her circumstances, without necessarily defeating the mission that God has given us. being consciences of society. So when you mentioned that, immediately I got it sparked off something. We can actually involve Cardinal Turkson to share with us some of his experiences about AI, about robotization, about how the world economic order is going, and what the church in Ghana, in Cape Coast, we should do. So that is something I'll take up after our Diamond Jubilee celebration.
Well, Your Grace, I think we have had an interesting discussion this evening. May I know if there is anything else you want to add, especially regarding the Catholicism in Ghana and then the double Jubilee that we have?
I think to close off for today, I would like to beg our Catholics all over Ghana not to forget Good Friday, the 18th of April, when we thank God for the gift of the Gold Coast hierarchy. We cannot celebrate it because it is a day that is a very solemn sort of day. But I will invite them to let us celebrate it with vim and vigor, especially on Easter Sunday, when we are praising and glorifying God for the resurrection. Let us really take up our pilgrimage of hope, bringing about the Jubilee of hope to the people of God. I'll look at it from that point of view.
Your Grace, when the Catholic Church in Ghana, starting from Mora, was 25 years old, the Jubilee monument was in Elmina. It was like a grave with a cross with inscription. And the second Jubilee was the Jubilee School. So, what do we do with this Diamond Jubilee? What should be the mark that this was Jubilee monument, Diamond Jubilee monument, for which we as lay may have to contribute for its realization? I'm not the person to ask you a question, but I'm just thinking aloud.
Prof, I must be honest with you, it's something that you have brought to my mind immediately. We have to admit that it has a national perspective that could be lost in on us in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast. It is not only a Diamond Jubilee for us in the Archdiocese of Cape Coast. I have invited my brother bishops, to help us and to come and join us for the climax, which will be on the 24th and the 25th of October. There is the Double Jubilee Committee that is working. So what you have said, I think, will be a very good idea for our Double Jubilee Committee to think of. What monument do we want to leave to be able to say, here we celebrated the Diamond Jubilee of our becoming a Catholic hierarchy? Thank you again for the idea. As I sit here now, I'm waiting for I'll throw it to the Double Jubilee Committee to come up with some idea, because you see, where you, the lay people, come in, you have a great gift of, call it this way, arousing in us something that you can do. And if you can do it, why don't we allow you to do it? We'd see what monument to put in place. But it means we have to involve also the government, most probably. Not even most probably. In reality, we have to. So we have to now start looking at the possibility of going to see the President of the Republic, the regional minister, and telling them about this Diamond Jubilee celebration. Yep.
We want to end our discussion today. I must say we are very grateful to
Thank you very much.
His Grace Archbishop Amabakel, and then Sir Knight Prof. Anthony Ananpra. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for this opportunity. Good night.
Cafdil TV, in collaboration with Cape Coast Teaching Hospital, is organizing a blood donation exercise on Easter Monday, 21st April 2025, at the Mary Queen of Peace School premises, 4th Rate, Cape Coast here. So we are pleading with you to come and support us, and also invited. Donate blood, then save a life. That day is holiday, so we need you to come and donate blood, then save a life as well. That is 21st April, Easter Monday, Mary Queen of Peace, 4th Reach. We are inviting you to come and support us as well.